We are also very excited that we have two true stories that relate directly to the California vineyards and their involvement in the judgment. And both Mr. Rogerville and Mr. Naismith will share interesting moments in their personal experiences. Please engage fully in the evening. Your participation will add to the interest, excitement, and value of evening parts of which we are being captured for your later enjoyment by film. I'd like to introduce Mr. Mark Naismith. For some of you that don't know this gentleman, he has a very interesting story that relates so wonderfully to this evening and the concepts that were brought about with the two wines from California. Mark, if you would be so kind, sir.
Okay. So, had a very interesting experience in France. The year was 1984. And we were traveling, my then girlfriend, who I think subsequently jettisoned me for obvious reasons, but we at least got through this trip, and another couple were traveling through France, and we were in Nice. And perhaps the main reason we were there was to attend the 1984 Grand Prix in Monaco, which interestingly is the only Grand Prix of Monaco, Monte Carlo, that's ever been rained out. It was stopped. And they jettisoned all the people, and they told us to leave, and we wound up in the train station in Monaco, and a lot of French people were very upset about this, and they were very unruly, so the police decided that they would come in and drop some tear gas canisters on us. So anyway, that was an experience, but I diverged. So we had made a reservation at a very famous hotel in Nice called the Hotel Negresco. The Hotel Negresco is right on the main boulevard in Nice. I don't know if any of you know about it, Jay May. It overlooks the Mediterranean. It's a very famous hotel. It was built in 1912, and it's got a restaurant called Le Chanticler, which is a very dramatic, old-style, perfectly appointed restaurant. And I made a reservation there for our party to celebrate my then girlfriend's birthday, which I thought was very noble. So we show up at the hotel, the Chanticler restaurant at the Hotel Negresco, and I walk up, and I have in my possession my little wine case that I had brought over from here, and it had a bottle of 1974 Stag's Leap Cabernet and a bottle of 1974 Chateau Montelena Cabernet. Now these are, as you know, the winner of the wine tasting, the red was 1973, but as Paul will tell you, 74 was also a wonderful year. These are two stellar bottles of wine. So I walked up to the maitre d' and I said, I have brought some wine, and I was trying not to be the pretentious loudmouth American, which I think I succeeded in doing relatively well. And I said, I would like to bring these wines into your restaurant. And the maitre d' looked at me like I just said, I would like to set your restaurant on fire. Completely stupefied. Completely stupefied. You know, 1984, I show up with these two bottles of wine, and I really wasn't trying to, I just wanted to bring them in. So the gentleman said, I need to get the sommelier. So I wait about 5 minutes, and all of a sudden this man appears. Very big, 6'3", and they speak in French, which was pretty much the conversation of this idiot wants to bring this wine into our restaurant. That's, you know, wonderful. So the guy's kind of, I hand him these two bottles of wine, and he's kind of looking at them. And, you know, I could tell it was just awkward, uncomfortable, difficult. And I said, to the best of my ability, I said, you know, I'm not trying to offend you. I'm not trying to be difficult. I just said, I brought these, and, you know, if it's not a good thing to do, then I understand. I understand you've got a beautiful wine list. And so the guy was, I mean, he just towered over me. He was probably 6'3", and he's holding these two bottles of wine, and he looks down at me and he goes, Monsieur, this is highly irregular. That's all he said. And I said, okay. And then I think he was thinking like, he really didn't know what to do. And I really think that for some ridiculously strange reason, no one had ever shown up with this, and except for Mark Naismith. You know, which I'm sure some of you who know me could figure out that I might be the only person capable of doing this. So after a while, he consented, right? So we're seated. They opened the 2 bottles of 1974 Cabernet. They put them on the table. So I was smart enough, thank goodness. Little bird on my shoulder said, "You better order some wine from their wine list." You know, so the wine list is just impeccable. First growth Bordeaux, just incredible. So we ordered a bottle of French champagne that was expensive and it was good. I don't know what it was, a Deutz or a Krug or something. And so we ordered this and we start the dinner service. So the guy comes out and he starts to pour the wine. We started with one of them and we started to have our dinner. So about, I guess we were maybe a little bit through our entree plate, and I called one of the waiters over and I said, "Would you bring me a couple of glasses?" And they did, and I poured a pretty substantial pour of each of the wines. And I said, "Would you bring these wines to the sommelier?" And he had a little cadre of assistants, and I said, "We'd like to share this with him." So they took them away. Well, guess what happened?
You drink
What do you think happened?
ice cubes.
Well, we had a late reservation.
He threw you out.
Well, it was kind of just the opposite. So we had a late reservation, and people started to leave the restaurant, and I actually saw some bottles of first growth Bordeaux that still had some wine in them. And even I had enough class to not go over it. Class. So I know that was hard. So, you know, the restaurant started, and all of a sudden, this guy, the head sommelier, comes back, and he's got his little cadre of assistant sommeliers with them all armed with their little wine cups. And he says to me, he says, "This is just spectacular." I said, "We've never had wine like this."
He didn't know about them?
Well, I think they had known about the 76 tasting, and I believe they were probably had some California wine before, but I don't think they'd had this before. And they were 274s, and they were, you know, right at 10 years old, and you know, they probably could have lasted longer, but they were home run hitters. So this guy shows up, and they're just gushing over this stuff, and he's just like, "This is an incredible experience. You know, you're so nice to share this with us. We had no idea." And I'm like, you know, I didn't do that, but I kind of wanted to. And so all of a sudden, the restaurant was empty, and there were the 4 of us and the 4 sommeliers, and we became pretty good pals pretty quickly. And we started talking a little bit about this whole experience of California wines, and you know, I was, as usual, very modest and very understated, and just said, "Yeah, I think we're doing some pretty cool stuff over there, and I'm glad you have the opportunity to taste that." So it was pretty fun, and it was a great experience. So we ordered dessert, and they brought us each a glass of Sauterne from their wine list. It was not Chateau de Cam, but it was certainly a very high-end wine. And we just had a wonderful time closing the restaurant. We just had like a little group hug that we all had a great experience. So I went from this guy glaring down at me and saying, you know, "This is highly irregular, monsieur,"
I love that.
to a very fun evening. Paid the bill. It was a great experience, and I hope you liked the story. It was fun. I told it a few times, and it was good to go.